All right, let's dive in. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating idea from Kandayia Ali's work, these strange, unexplained illnesses that can show up out of nowhere and then just vanish. We're going to look at what, according to these spiritual insights, might be going on behind the scenes.
Okay, but before we go any further, it's super important to put this right up front. This is the source's own disclaimer. Everything we're talking about today comes from a spiritual perspective. It's food for thought, not a medical diagnosis. So please, always, always talk to a professional for any health concerns. So, let's start with a question that really gets to the core of this whole thing. Have you ever had some weird ailment that just pops up? You go to doctors, they run tests, they can't figure it out, and then one day, poof, it's just gone. They call it a miracle recovery, but you're left thinking, what on earth just happened? That's exactly where our story begins. Well, within this spiritual framework, that exact mystery has a name. It's called the no face, no case phenomenon. And this is the central idea we're going to unpack. Consider it our first big clue.
So, what does no face, no case actually mean? Think of it like this. It's a term for a kind of hidden attack. The idea is that unseen negative intentions can be aimed at a person, causing very real suffering. But because there's no obvious attacker, no face, it's almost impossible to prove. There's no case. The source even calls these petrification tactics, like they're designed to slowly turn you to stone by messing with your body and your mind.
And here's the really clever part of how this supposedly works. The body doesn't know the difference, right? So it reacts by mimicking real illnesses. These unseen forces zero in on your weak spots, whatever your most vulnerable system is, and they trigger symptoms that look and feel 100% real. That makes it incredibly difficult to find the actual root cause. Okay, so if this is all happening under the radar, how would you even know? Well, the source suggests that even hidden warfare leaves behind fingerprints. There are clues if you know what to look for. So let's play detective and examine the evidence. Now, what's so interesting here is that the symptoms aren't just in one bucket. They're spread across 4 different areas of your life. You've got the physical stuff, sure, the muscle tension, the dizziness. But look, it also shows up in your behavior. Maybe you suddenly lose your appetite or start avoiding people. Then it hits your emotions, anxiety, panic, just feeling off. And it even gets into your head with muddled thinking and that nasty inner critic. It's not just one thing. It's a whole pattern that affects your entire being. But here's where it gets even deeper. According to this framework, an external attack is only half the story. There's another layer to this, an internal mechanism that actually keeps the whole negative cycle going. And this is the part where, without even realizing it, a person can become a participant in their own suffering.
This is a concept called looping, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. The same symptoms, the same ailments, the same bad situations just keep happening over and over again. It becomes this kind of self-inflicted curse, and it's powered by our own inner stuff, our beliefs, our self-perception. It's almost like the outer attack opens a door, and our inner response keeps it propped open.
And this constant looping can lead to something the author calls covert soul selling. Now, I know that sounds super dramatic, right? But the idea is actually really subtle. It's about unknowingly giving away your power, little by little. You start to believe the loop is just your reality, and in doing so, you help it continue. And this is a perfect example of how it happens. It can be something as simple as a phrase you repeat to yourself. Saying things like, "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I'm just always sick." According to the source, every time you say that, it's like signing a little contract in disguise. You're basically giving permission for the cycle to keep going and handing over your energy on a silver platter. Okay, so if that's the trap, how in the world do you get out? Well, this brings us to the most empowering part of this whole idea, the reversal. The source lays out a path to not just break the cycle, but to take back everything that was lost. Let's see how that works. So here's the absolute game changer. It's a shift in focus. Instead of trying to return to sender, trying to fight back and send the bad energy back where it came from, the source suggests a return to self. This isn't about the other person at all. It's an internal move. It's about pulling all your focus back to yourself, back to your own power, your own awareness, your own sovereignty. And this is the key. This is why it works. By reclaiming your own power, by tearing up those negative contracts you've made with yourself. The source says you close the energetic doorways that were opened. The loops just dissolve. And that is why those weird illnesses can suddenly disappear. The miracle isn't some random event. It's what happens when you finally take your power back.
Now, to make all this really practical, the source gives us a toolkit. It's a set of 5 prompts for reflection, designed to help you spot these patterns in your own life. Think of them as your personal investigation tools.
So let's just quickly walk through these. First, you notice the loops. Where do you see these patterns repeating? Then, identify the contracts. What are those negative phrases you say about yourself? Third, reclaim your power. Where have you been giving it away? Fourth, you define your true self. What does that even look like? And finally, you take action. You rewrite a belief. What's just one limiting thought you can decide to change, starting right now, to break the cycle? Which really brings us to the final and maybe most powerful thought from all of this. Maybe the real question we should be asking isn't what's wrong with me, but rather, whose intention am I carrying? According to this framework, just seeing the pattern is the first step to breaking free. And reversing it? Well, that's the path back to you. Definitely something to think about.